podcast where we compare theme park offerings from coast to coast. We don't always see eye to eye, but in the end, we'll try. I'm CJ, and I'm joined by Alli. Alli, how are you doing on this Saturday night?
It's Saturday. This
Yeah,
long weekend is messing with my brain. It is Thanksgiving weekend, and it's just messing with my brain. But I'm great. How are you, Siege?
I am doing well. I ran 16 miles today.
Oh
Whoop,
my God.
whoop. So, getting ready for marathon weekend,
Yeah, how are
which
you?
maybe this episode will be out when marathon weekend happens.
No, it won't be. This is in
Oh,
December. How are you
never mind.
feeling about the marathon, though?
Okay. I think I'll survive, and that's really just the goal. So,
Yeah. It's like my running group says, rest, recover, revenge.
I
Except you need to run before you can rest, recover, revenge. So
okay. I don't know if I have any running mantras except don't die.
don't die is a good one.
It is.
I mean, frankly, that's good general life advice. Just don't die.
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, before we get started about our main topic, there was some big Disney news that dropped this week.
Yeah, there sure was. It'll be a little bit on the older side by the time this episode comes out, but I think it's still worth mentioning.
Yeah, good old Bobby Chapek is gone. Yeah, Bob Chapek is gone. Iger is back, and it really kind of came out of nowhere. Like nobody was expecting that.
On a Sunday night, too, like Sunday late Florida time.
Yeah, I was sitting here gaming like my last game and I'm just scrolling on my phone and I'm like, holy crap, Bob Chapek's gone. What? Bob Iger's back? What? I thought it was like one of those like The Onion or something like that. And
Yeah.
then I Googled it and I was like, oh wait, this is real. Everybody's reporting it.
Like legitimate news sites are reporting it. This is happening. This is not a
Yeah.
drill.
Yeah, and from what I understand, Chapek wasn't told until like shortly before he was axed.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like on a Sunday night, it has to be a surprise.
Yeah. So I'm not really sure. I mean, obviously Disney stock hasn't been doing well recently. And I think Iger can help right that in some ways. But from what I understand, the problems are stemming from investing so much money into Disney Plus and not really seeing the returns on it that they need to. So I don't know if we'll see any effects in the parks right away, especially because the parks seem to be the big money maker right now.
Yeah, I think it's still all a question of what's going to happen. I think there is way more going on inside of Disney than we could ever possibly know.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know that we will ever get the full story. I don't know, maybe 50 years from now the NDAs will all have expired and we'll get to hear what happened for real.
Yeah, right. I want to read the book. I did hear that Chapek, I don't remember where I read this, but I did hear that Chapek had to sign a non-disparaging agreement or something like that, where he couldn't like talk bad about the company when he left or something like that.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm using the right terminology there, but my understanding of it was like he couldn't say anything negative or like he couldn't really talk about what led to that. So I think it'll be a while till we hear from him. But yeah, I think a lot of people are maybe mistaken because they're like, "Oh, Iger doesn't like this. Iger doesn't like that. The park reservations are going away. Genie Plus is going away." It's like, well, Genie has been in development, or it was in development before Chapek took over, and like the Flex Pass used to be at Disneyland before COVID was a thing, and that required reservations to get into the park. So like that was obviously invented when Iger was around. So I don't know if we'll really see that many effects in the parks, but I do think the cast members might feel a little bit more appreciated. Maybe morale will be up a little bit. The other thing is, the prices have been going up quite significantly, and there's reports that like Iger has been upset or like surprised by the price increases. And if this is just my opinion here, I don't mind paying more if the experience is a good one, like if we're getting more or something, but we're not like there's still things that haven't come back from the closures and like entertainment is cut and I just feel like they're cutting things while raising prices and it's like that doesn't seem right. So I don't think they'll undo any price hikes that they've been doing, but I think maybe some financial rearranging will go on so that there's more value restored to that higher price tag.
That's the hope at least. We all want to get as like the most value for our money that we
Hmm.
can. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's going to take a while before we see some changes. They're not going to get rid of Genie. They spent way too long working on that. They're not just going to throw it away. They might change it and continue to develop it and try to, please, hopefully, try to make it better.
Right?
But they are not throwing that away.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah, and then I've heard things like bring back Disney's Magical Express. It's like, well, that was operated by a third-party company. So,
Yeah.
and the public doesn't know, like, did Disney cut that deal or did the third-party company say, like, we're out,
Yeah.
like we can make
Again
more
with the
money doing this on our
NDAs.
own. We don't know.
Yeah.
So I feel like people think Disney is in a position to do more than they actually will.
Yeah.
So I think we'll just have to wait and see what happens there.
Yeah. Wild rumors and speculation. It all needs to die down before we really know what's going to happen.
Yeah, that and this is my perspective as being a cast member under Iger. I don't think he's like the end all be all of CEOs. I mean, I saw some things get cut from cast member perks, not necessarily not like pay cuts or stuff like that, but like they started upping the amount of blockout dates where we could take guests in. My first year there was like the first or second year that they didn't do a cast Christmas party. They changed the way that they handled that. We didn't get previews for one of the new attractions to one of the parks, and it's like, well, why? Like that doesn't really cost you guys much, but it makes your cast members more knowledgeable about the product that we're talking about, and it also like really boosts cast morale. It makes you feel more valuable, and like the amount of money they spend on that isn't very much. So there were some cuts made to cast member perks under Iger. So I know a lot of people are like, "Whoa, Iger, he's back!" But I'm also like, he's back, and he's better than Chapek, but he's not like the best.
One thing that this is a complete tangent based on something that you said, but I wonder, you mentioned like a cast Christmas party and like cast member previews. So for like the Christmas party, would that be something that they have like two Christmas parties? Because if they
I
have
think
them
they
after
did.
hours,
Yeah,
like
I think
the
I
park is
think
still running.
I think what it was they would close the park at like 6 or 7 or something like that, and then like 2 days they would do that, and then cast members would come in with their families and stuff. And they also did a really big Toys for Tots toy drive then.
Mhm.
They would have, the little toy boxes outside the gates and stuff, but they moved all those backstage.
All right. Well, shall we move on to the actual topic of today's episode?
Yeah, I thought that was an important thing to talk about.
No, it is. It is.
Yeah. But anyways, today's episode is about everybody's favorite thrill ride. Well, maybe not everybody's favorite thrill ride, but a very classic thrill ride, Space Mountain.
Yes, I love this ride. It's so much fun.
I do too. I feel like if somebody says, let's go on Space Mountain, I'm always going to say yes.
Yeah.
Whereas if somebody said that about Star Tours or something, I'd be like, I could go without it.
Well, 3D Sims are a completely different category, I think. So,
Yes, true. So let's start out with talking about our favorite things about Magic Kingdom and Disneyland Space Mountain. And usually the way that we do this is we talk about the older attraction first. In this case, Magic Kingdom's Space Mountain is a little bit older, so we're going to talk about that one first. So Allie, tell me your favorite thing about Magic Kingdom's Space Mountain.
I like that it provides the biggest thrill in all of Magic Kingdom.
More thrilling than Splash Mountain?
Yeah, I think so. It's dark. You can't see where you're going.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. And what about Disneyland Space Mountain?
It provides the biggest thrill in all of Disneyland.
More thrilling than Splash Mountain?
Yeah, it's dark. You can't see where you're going.
Okay, just checking. Now, as far as the resorts overall, Walt Disney World versus Disneyland Resort, do you think it's the top thrill?
Oh, heck no.
Okay,
No
just
way.
clarifying.
Mm-mm.
So you think per park, though?
Yes, per park.
Okay. So for me, my favorite thing about Magic Kingdom Space Mountain is the astronauts that are inside there. That's so random. It's so cool. And then for Disneyland, I like the special editions that they do. They've done a wide variety of special editions, which we'll talk about in a little bit. And I just think that's pretty fun, different.
Yeah.
So opening dates, Magic Kingdom opened, or the Space Mountain opened January 15th, 1975.
And Space Mountain opened on May 27th, 1977.
Yes. So now for some fun facts for each one. We'll start with Magic Kingdom here. This was the world's first entirely indoor roller coaster.
I did
Go
not know
Magic
that.
Kingdom. Yeah, I didn't know that either. I think Disneyland gets a lot of credit a lot of the time for being like the first to do this, the first to do that. Da, 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 da.
Mhm.
So I think it's cool that Magic Kingdom like says, "Hey, we got the world's first indoor roller coaster." Hoo-hoo. It was also the first Space Mountain, obviously, but it's now at every Disney park except for Shanghai Disneyland. They got Tron instead, which Magic Kingdom is now getting in spring, supposedly. It was also the first roller coaster to be controlled by computers.
Oh, high tech.
High tech indeed. And when they were designing this attraction, the Imagineers consulted with a real live astronaut named Gordon Cooper. The building that it's housed in is 183 feet tall and 300 feet around. And legendary Imagineer John Hench had actually been working on this since the early 60s. And if you do some Googling about John Hench Space Mountain designs, you'll see some really cool concept art. But it obviously took a while for this project to finally come to life. And they went through several different names, but by 1966, a full 9 years before the attraction opened, they had settled on the name Space Mountain. When they finally opened the ride in 1975, the grand opening included real astronauts, Disney characters dressed like astronauts, and a 2,000-piece marching band.
Wow.
Yes. Our Disneyland friends who have not visited Magic Kingdom may not know that there are two tracks at Magic Kingdom. The Alpha track is 10 feet longer than the Omega track. So if you're looking for a longer ride, I guess you can request that one. Although if it's not crowded, they'll only do one side.
Which is which? Because I only
It
know left and right.
I it says like painted up there somewhere. It says like Alpha and Omega. I don't recall off
Okay.
the top of my head which is which. And then the Magic Kingdom Space Mountain also gets special editions, but they are only accessible during the Halloween party and the Christmas party. As such, I have never been on the special editions. I
Interesting.
hear that the Halloween one is like completely pitch black.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, it does sound like fun. And the Christmas one I hear is like a Christmas party inside. I don't know.
That also sounds like fun. I love Christmas. Have I mentioned that? I think I
Yeah.
have.
All right, hit me with some fun facts about Disneyland Space Mountain.
Space Mountain at Disneyland was Disneyland's second roller coaster after the Matterhorn. Space Mountain at Disneyland was designed by Imagineer Bill Watkins. At the opening, 6 of the original 7 Mercury astronauts attended. Now, just to be clear, these astronauts did not go to Mercury. They were the first astronauts, is the Mercury group.
Oh,
The yeah,
interesting.
the ride had a complete track replacement between 2003 and 2005. And I'm going to backtrack a little bit because I forgot to mention the last Mercury astronaut didn't attend because he was deceased at the time, so he had a pretty good excuse for not being there.
Mm. Hmm.
Yeah. The ride had a complete track replacement between 2003 and 2005, and it reopened just in time for Disneyland's 50th anniversary. I think like literally 2 days beforehand. There was a reopening ceremony held that day, which featured Neil Armstrong. We all know who Neil Armstrong is, the astronaut. He received a plaque that read, "Presented to Mr. Neil Armstrong for his courage and adventurous spirit that continues to inspire all mankind to reach for the stars." There have been 3 special editions so far for Space Mountain. There was Rockin' Space Mountain in the mid-2000s that featured music from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So cool.
Hmm.
There's the Ghost Galaxy edition that comes out at Halloween. Also so cool. And Hyperspace Mountain, which is Star Wars themed, that came out first around the time that The Force Awakens was coming out. So cool. There's like a battle between the X-Wings and the TIE fighters. It's really, really spectacularly done.
Hmm.
The building itself is 118 feet tall and 200 feet in diameter. And it cost $18 million to build, including the arcade and amphitheater, which is more than the cost of building Disneyland. That was $17 million.
Yes, 20 years later, they spent more money to build Space Mountain.
Inflation.
Yeah. So out of you and I have been on both on all 3 special editions at Disneyland.
Mhm.
Which of those 3, Rockin', Ghost Galaxy, or Hyperspace Mountain, has been your favorite?
Well, I will preface this by saying that my memories of Rockin' Space Mountain are fading a bit. I do remember the Rockin' California Screamin' a lot more than I remember Rockin' Space Mountain.
Hmm.
I think Ghost Galaxy is my favorite because it is so well done. It's
Hmm.
scary and it's
Hmm.
good.
I have bad news about Ghost Galaxy.
Is it not coming back?
It hasn't come back.
Oh, that's a shame.
The rumor is they canceled it because people complained it was too scary.
I mean, there are warning signs out
There
there.
were
It's
warning
supposed to be
signs.
scary. It's Halloween.
Yeah. Yeah. And I remember them like adding additional warning signs besides like this is a roller coaster. It would say like Ghost Galaxy features scary things, right? Something like
Yeah.
that. But I
I
guess that
mean,
wasn't enough.
what if they like just bring it back after dark? Like
That would
that
be
could
cool.
work.
Especially because they do Guardians of the Galaxy Monsters After Dark over in DCA.
Yeah. They could make it work. Come
I
on,
know.
Disneyland.
I feel like it's just flipping a switch. It's not
Yeah.
that hard. Switching the soundtrack, flipping a switch, make it happen.
Yeah. Well, it's shifting some of the visuals might be a little bit harder. But yeah, I feel like they could put in an effort.
Yes, I think so. Or maybe like just the week of Halloween.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think my favorite out of three was Rockin' Space Mountain. It was just so much fun. It was like a galactic concert.
Yeah. It was a lot of fun. I will say you're slightly biased though because you do not like Star Wars.
I don't, but that was a fun version too. I think it was really creative. And I'm pretty sure Disneyland Paris has a hyperspace mountain that they do. Not
That sounds
100% sure.
familiar. I didn't
Yeah.
get to go, but it sounds familiar from, when I was reading up the guidebooks in 2020 before everything happened.
Yeah. Do you remember in like the late 90s when they redid Tomorrowland and Disneyland and Space Mountain was gold?
I don't remember it, but I know that they
Well,
repainted it to white in 2005 in that
I
refurb.
I shouldn't say gold. I should say like bronze. It was
Yeah.
really bad. It was really bad. So for our Disneyland friends who maybe don't remember this, if you remember the French fry rocks that were at the entrance of Tomorrowland, it was that color, the whole building. It was really hideous. I'm
And if
not
you're a
sure.
Walt Disney World friend, you can look it up.
Yeah, it's just horrible. It was like bronze, but it had touches of like green and purple if it reflected a certain way. It just kind of fell flat for me.
Yeah, if you look up on Google Space Mountain Disneyland 1998 and go into the images, yeah, it's almost like they were trying to have a steampunky feel and it just didn't really work.
That's exactly what they were doing. And Rocket Rods kind of had the same color scheme going on.
Hmm.
The Imagination Institute, where they did, what was that show called? Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, kind of
Yeah.
also had that same color scheme. But yeah, it just did not work for Disneyland. Fancy that, like a big poop colored building. Or Tomorrowland just doesn't
Gross,
work.
CJ. We don't talk about poop on this podcast.
Okay,
We'll
well,
talk
moving
about
on.
poo later.
Yeah, Winnie the Pooh. Okay. Location and land. The Magic Kingdom Space Mountain is obviously in Tomorrowland. It's kind of like right in the center in the back, next to the Tomorrowland Speedway, tucked in right next to Tron, and over by the bathrooms by the Carousel of Progress.
And at Disneyland, it's also in Tomorrowland in the back right corner, above the Magic Eye Theater, between Pizza Planet and the Starcade.
Yes, yes. So kind of, it always trips me up, because I expect in Magic Kingdom, I expect Space Mountain to be further right than it actually
Yeah,
is. That really confused me. So for our Magic Kingdom friends, Space Mountain and Disneyland would be like between Carousel of Progress and Buzz Lightyear. It's like
yeah,
off in that corner. And
yeah,
then for our Disneyland friends, it would be like kind of where Autopia is.
yeah.
Yeah, it's very different location in the land. And I think, when Tron opens, that corner of the park is going to be very interesting. Okay, so the queue and the exterior. The queue for Magic Kingdom Space is entirely indoors. The only time I've seen it outdoors is if there's a holdup at the Lightning Lane entry or like the ride is about to reopen and they're like holding people there until they get the word that it officially reopens. But once you're in the building, you go down a brief set of stairs, down a long ramp and a long hallway, and then you head back up a ramp before you see the boarding area. There's a series of switchbacks that sometimes go back behind this like covered hallway, depending on how busy it is. And throughout the queue, you see references to Starport 75, and you also see windows to space where you can see like star fields and stuff. There used to be some interactive games in the standby queue, but I haven't seen those turned on in a long time, so I don't know if they're still around. And there's also maps of outer space with galaxies and stuff like that. Different like space destinations are pointed out.
At Disneyland, you go up a big, long honkin' ramp, and then you see like the sign that says, "Here's where the queue starts."
Hmm.
Then you go around a corner, up another big ramp, and you're basically on the roof covering the ramp that you had walked up to see the signage. You basically like make a giant U-turn and go back out. This is where a lot of the queue is. There are shade structures, but it can get really hot up there on the roof of that building, especially
Yeah.
with the as many switchbacks as you can get.
I
Um,
think, sorry, I think since you and I have been there, I think they opened part of the second floor of the Starcade to accommodate some people inside.
wow, CJ, that was literally what I was about to
Oh,
say.
sorry.
That's okay. You also go through the upper level of the Starcade before going back outside, and then you enter Space Station 77 building.
I wonder why Magic Kingdom calls it Starport 75, but Disneyland calls it Space Station 77.
I don't know. I do not have this information.
It's an astro orbitor situation. Starport, space station. Meh. Anyways.
Anyways, when you get to the loading area of Space Mountain Disneyland, it's designed to resemble a hangar and contains a full-size starship suspended directly over the loading area. The original version of this ship was modeled after the starship from the film 2001: A Space Odyssey, but in 2005, the starship was altered to be a more science fantasy design.
I'm gonna have to look up the original one
Yeah,
because I don't
I couldn't
remember.
tell you the difference.
Yeah. Okay, so the Disneyland one is designed to resemble a hangar,
Hmm.
and the Magic Kingdom one I feel like is more of a like board here and travel to outer space, like
Yeah, it
a
feels more like an airport terminal.
so maybe that's the difference, a starport versus a space station.
Yeah, tourists versus I'm an astronaut.
Yeah. Maybe we're like onto something here with the theme of the ride.
That would also with with Magic Kingdom, there's all the maps and there's the like
Like the destinations you can go see.
yeah, that makes it feel more touristy where I feel like Disneyland it feels like you're an
Like
employee.
like utilitarian, I guess.
Yeah, you're an astronaut. Like
Huh. Interesting. I think we're onto something here.
I like it.
Okay, the music in the area in the queue. So in the queue, there's like kind of spacey background sounds, kind of like music. On the ride, there's no onboard speakers. The ride vehicles are pretty old, and most people think they need to be refurbished, myself included, because there's no onboard speakers. So there's no like soundtrack timing with the turns of the ride. However, once you get into the building of the ride, like once the ride gets going and you start going up the lift hill, you can hear the music playing inside the building. And it's spacey sounding music. Sometimes you go by speakers positioned along the track that make whooshing noises. There's one part towards the end where you're like going around a corner or something. It goes wow 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 wow. Yeah, it's like a pretty iconic sound in my mind. Like it just keeps speeding up. Wow 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 wow. I don't know.
Wow. Yeah, the silence on Space Mountain at Magic Kingdom is jarring and I don't like it.
And the track is really loud.
Yeah.
You hear all the clunking and the clicking, and it scares me.
Yeah, it's
It,
uncomfortable.
in the same way that Matterhorn at Disneyland scares me.
Interesting.
Mhm. Okay, what about Disneyland Space?
Well, in the queue, the music is kind of hard to hear, but there's like spacey sci-fi, like theremin music, and you get the like when you're inside the building, you get the welcome space travelers message where he's basically giving you like the ride information, like, hey, don't ride this if it's gonna be a problem for your body.
Mhm.
On the ride, there is a mix of sci-fi horror slash surf music. Michael Giacchino did the soundtrack after 2005. Prior to that, the soundtrack was done by composer Aaron Richard and show producer Eddie Soto. Included guitar from Dick Dale.
Yep. Yep, very well known, like surf guitar guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Disneyland, well, and what's cool about the Disneyland Space Mountain version is there are onboard speakers, so they can time the music to the turns and what you're doing and stuff,
Yeah.
and add sound effects at the appropriate time instead of just placing them on an infinite loop along the
Yeah.
track. So the ride vehicle itself at Magic Kingdom, I mean, obviously they look like rockets. It's similar seating arrangements to the Matterhorn bobsled. You've got 2 cars with 3 seats each for a total of 6 passengers.
And at Disneyland, also designed like rockets. They apparently used to glow in the dark, and that got
Hmm.
removed. But there are 2 cars, 6 seats each, 3 rows, 2 seats per row, for a total of 12 people per train.
Yeah, I I don't know if we could ever find this information, but I'm curious about the ride capacity differences because Disneyland seats 12, but Magic Kingdom, even though they only seat 6, they have 2 tracks. So I wonder how similar or different the ride capacity is given that.
According to Wikipedia, the capacity for Disneyland Space Mountain, it depending on how many rockets are in circulation, anywhere from 2057 down to 1440 riders per hour.
Okay. I take it you're
So
gonna look it up for Magic Kingdom.
I I was hoping there would be a link to it on this. Oh, Space Mountain Magic Kingdom. Let's see here.
So I'm gonna call it like 2000 for space, roughly, at Disneyland.
It doesn't have it.
Hmm.
Let's do it.
Do, 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 do.
No, it doesn't have it on the Wikipedia.
Apparently, it's about 2000 also.
Which, I mean, okay, so that makes sense that it would be the same because you're running 2 tracks at Magic Kingdom, so you are running the same amount of riders at a
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Mystery solved. Okay, general storyline and routes. We're going to talk about Magic Kingdom first. So, reading from the Walt Disney World website, here is what they say. Dip and careen into the inky blackness as a futuristic soundtrack echoes all around you. Fly past shooting stars and celestial satellites, roar past streaking orbs of light, wayward comets, and migrant meteors. Feel the pull of gravity as you're drawn into a swirling wormhole. I bet you that is the swirling wormhole.
Yeah, I was about to say that. You beat me to it.
So obviously, you're in a rocket exploring space. You go through the seatbelt check, and then you turn a corner and go hurtling through this like blue light tunnel. And it's a really tiny tunnel. Like I feel like I could probably reach out and touch the side of the tunnel. I don't know that I actually could, but it looks like I can.
Yeah,
And
please
then
keep your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the vehicle at all times.
yes. And then they take your picture. And it's at a very strange moment because it's like when your rocket is turning about to go up the lift hill, but you're not really doing anything thrilling. So people are like kind of hanging on, like they're about to expect something, but they're not really sure what. And it's like kind of a sideways angle. It's a weird spot for a picture.
Yeah.
Anyways, then you head up a lift hill where you see astronauts as well as like a space station off to the side. This is really unless the lights turn on. This is the only part of the ride where you can see the other track. The lift hill parallels each other, and the people mover track is right in the middle, going straight, which is pretty cool. And then you go through a series of twists and turns in the dark with a projected star field. And then towards the end, you go through this like bright orange slash reddish tunnel, which might be that wormhole that they're talking about. And then you begin to slow down and make your way back to the station. And it's a different station, I should say, a different, completely different location. Not at all where you started. You cannot see like where you began.
Yeah, I really like actually that they have separate loading and unloading areas. I feel like it goes a lot smoother when you're getting in the car because you're not standing there waiting for somebody to pick up their 12 water bottles and 13 backpacks.
Right. And it's also a really awkward ride vehicle to get out of. So
Yeah.
having people not stare at you for that is really nice.
Yeah. So at Disneyland, this comes from the Disneyland website. Navigate through a vast futuristic space station as you make your way to mission control. Board a sleek flight vehicle and prepare yourself for a high flying adventure to the furthest reaches of space. Ascend slowly through a swirling solar field as your rocket powers up. Plunge through a spectacular spiral nebula, and then, when the countdown ends, hang on tight. As you hurtle forward into infinite darkness, your rocket darts and twists in the void, speeding faster and faster. Feel the G-forces as you careen into the unknown. Immersive sound effects and evocative music add to the intense sensory experience. Brave the most epic journey of your earthbound life and accept your mission to conquer Space Mountain.
They're really hyping that up.
Yeah. And I mean, they do give a pretty good detailed run through of the ride. Like in the queue, you're navigating through the futuristic space station, making your way to mission control. You board the flight vehicle. You ascend through the swirling solar field. You plunge through a spiral nebula. There's a countdown, and you hurtle forward into infinite darkness. I mean, there's stars and such, but infinite darkness, CJ.
Yeah. They talk about they talk about ascend slowly through a swirling solar field. I never understood that lift hill that you go up with the spinning thing is a
Mhm.
swirling solar field.
I mean, I knew there was space things out there. I didn't recognize it as a solar field, but I'm not a space scientist, so
Yeah. All I know is it goes as the panels light up.
yeah.
Yeah. I thought it was like trying to like disorient you so the darkness felt more intense.
I mean, that could also be a part of it.
Yeah. One of the things that I really like about the Space Mountain at Disneyland is the part before that light tunnel that you go up.
Where it's like the blinky lights, like whoompa, whoompa, whoompa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Those are very cool.
One last thing to add, they do take your picture, and it is near the end of the ride.
Yeah. So you're not confused. You're like, woohoo, you're having fun or you're
Yeah.
terrified.
And the flash, and you're not blind through the entire ride because the ride's over and you're going into a well-lit room now.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We're going to talk about the exit queue experience because they are very different.
Yes.
So at Magic Kingdom Space Mountain, when you get out, you're faced with the photo images from your ride, so you can go up and tap your magic band really quick, and then you proceed to a very long exit ramp. And this is where both tracks exit to the same area, so the other riders will be coming from the other side. You go by a whole bunch of like vignettes. Basically, the first one that you'll see on the left side, yeah, the left side is like a lost and found and the command system with a robot who's taking the helm at this little computer. And then you on the right side you keep going on these ramps and you see Mars, the crater caverns, 20,000 light years under the sea, and the house of the future slash city of stars scene with a robot butler. And to me, these are kind of like space advertisements, like come back and see the crater caverns, come back and go under the sea or visit the city of stars. So I think that's like kind of continuing that space tourist theme.
Hmm.
And then you keep going down this really long ramp. I swear, the theme of Space Mountain is ramps. And then eventually it dumps you out into the gift shop, which, by the way, is a great gift shop. They've got little chairs in the corner, like little bar stool kind of things, and places to charge your phone.
Oh.
Yeah. Although the shop is currently being remodeled, so the exit is like totally different right now. But yeah, hopefully when the gift shop reopens, it'll still have that little area because if you're doing ride or switch or something like that, that's a really nice place to wait it out.
At Disneyland, you do disembark in the same loading area. However, they typically line up two cars in a row, and the back car is exiting while the front car is loading. So you're not doing the awkward stand there and like, I'm waiting for you to pick up your crap so I can get in. The car's already empty when it pulls up to where you're boarding. So anyways, you exit, you take the stairs up, and you go through a corridor of space imagery to the photo viewing and purchasing area, which is also where the wheelchair boarding queue waits. And there's also restrooms in this area and some weird benches, and it gets very crowded in this area. Like, it does not take a lot to fill up this area with people.
And you know what's weird about that area is like when you exit, everybody's concentrated like in the area leading out towards Tomorrowland, but like if you go left past the bathrooms, there's still quite a few places to like sit down, but nobody ever goes over there. They're just congregating in a huge blob, like right there at the exit.
Yeah. Anyways, once you escape that area, there's this long outdoor but covered corridor that you go up before being released into Tomorrowland. The exit doors to the Magic Eye Theater are on the right. And there's a barricade.
Yes, and hopefully you don't time it with the theater show ending because then it's going to be even more crowded.
Well, there are barriers, so the Space Mountain exit crowd doesn't mingle with the Magic Eye Theater exit crowd. So
yeah, but eventually they come together.
Yes, they do converge in Tomorrowland.
And it's not fun.
No, it's very crowded.
The other thing we wanted to compare was the top speed of these rides. You know, being that
and the duration.
Yes, being that it's in the dark, it feels a lot faster than it is. Magic Kingdom only reaches a top speed of about 28 miles per hour, and it lasts 2 minutes and 38 seconds.
Disneyland, on the other hand, reaches 35 miles an hour, which is approximately 56 kilometers per hour, and the ride lasts approximately 3 minutes.
And height requirements for Magic Kingdom is 44 inches. It's the highest one in the whole park.
Disneyland is only 40 inches.
They're both open during the fireworks. They're inside, so no problem there.
And they're both open during the rain. They're inside, so no problem there.
And they both have Lightning Lane offered.
Single rider is where things get tricky, though.
Yes, so Magic Kingdom kind of has single rider. If you get to a certain point in the queue, right before you see the switchback areas, there's a sign basically saying, hey, if you're a solo traveler, please alert a cast member. Usually they'll pull you in to fill a spot.
And Disneyland, the new single rider entrance was built in December of 2017, but it's not being used anymore. There's not single rider anymore.
That was the best single rider. Nobody ever used it. It was like dead, but you went in through the exit, and basically I heard they took it away because it was causing some traffic jams with like the wheelchair boarders,
the
wheelchair riders.
Me at all.
Yeah, it's a little too jammed back there. So I wish they could find a way to make it work because it was such a convenient way to get on the ride.
I wonder if they could like integrate it with the Fast Pass queue, if that would help. Or Lightning Lane now, sorry.
I don't know. I feel like they might run into people who jump the line, so they might have to put like a second set of scanners somewhere.
I feel like they would need like to do a ticket system or something.
Yeah. I don't know. Okay, well, with that brings us to our final showdown for this episode. Now that we've got the facts laid out, let's have our final showdown here. Can we see eye to eye? Does one Space Mountain rise above the other? Allie, where are you at tonight?
Look, if you've been on both of them, you know Disneyland is vastly superior in every way to Magic Kingdom Space Mountain. Like it's so much better in every possible way.
Okay, what's like the top quality of Disneyland's that makes it better, do you think?
Well, it's faster, it's longer, the music is better. The those are the big three. It's faster, it's longer, the music is better.
Okay.
Oh, the car configuration is worlds better too.
Yes, that's true. The ride vehicles at Magic Kingdom are very uncomfortable. So for me, I'm also going with Disneyland. It's a lot smoother of a track, especially since the 2005 replacement. I really think Magic Kingdom needs a track replacement. It is so jerky and uncomfortable. And they need onboard audio. I don't understand. At the very least, redesign the rockets so they have onboard audio. Then again, I'm not an Imagineer, so I don't know if that would require replacing things on the track and lead to a whole big refurbishment.
Yes, but would that really be so bad?
That's true. My theory is when Tron is up, they're going to take Space Mountain down and completely refurbish, like a 2-year refurbishment. I bet you they're going to do that. However, I will say I like the story of the Magic Kingdom version a little bit better. The fact that you're a tourist and, they've got like, I don't think the figures move, but I'm going to call them audio animatronics. They've got animatronic figures in there. That's kind of interesting. It gives you something to look at. And then the little vignettes in the exit queue, it gives you a little bit more of a story. And I think that's something to be appreciated.
Okay, yeah, I will give them that, and I will also give them the 2 tracks. I'm always a fan of 2 tracks. I
Yes.
think it needs to be done more often.
Yes.
The only thing that kept Disneyland from having 2 tracks was size issues. They just couldn't fit it.
Yeah, that's not surprising. That seems to be the case with Disneyland quite a bit. Yeah. Okay, well, that was a pretty easy one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So thank you guys for joining us as we discussed Space Mountain. And we want to know what you guys think. Do you agree with us that the Disneyland version is superior, or do you think the Magic Kingdom version is superior and you totally disagree with us? Let us know.
Let me just say, if you think the Magic Kingdom version is better, you're wrong.
Yes.
Just saying.
Find us on Instagram and Twitter at Park2Park Pod with the number 2. Email us with questions, feedback, future episode ideas, and more at park2parkpod@gmail.com. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a review wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to see us, you can watch us on YouTube.
We look fabulous.
We do, but I'm the prettier one.
I was going to say that we both look fabulous and leave it at that. You went and did that. That's just mean.
I think he might be bluffing, but okay. The other thing I was going to say was if you are a frequent Disneyland visitor or Walt Disney World visitor and you visited the other coast for the first time recently or the first time in a long time and you want to come on the show and talk about your impressions on the differences between the two, we would love to have you on. Send us a message, reach out to us, and we will find a time to have a trip report.
Yeah, we'd love to hear from you. Instagram or email is the best way to do that because I don't think I've logged on to our Twitter account in 3 months.
Cool.
Yeah, CJ, what are we talking about next time? We have a very fun episode next time.
Yeah, well, my family and I recently went to Legoland, and so we have a little trip report about Legoland here in Florida.
Sounds fun.
Sounds bricktastic.
Wow.
They kept saying that at the park. They were like, have a bricktastic day. And I was like, okay, cool.
They get paid to say that, CJ. You don't. You don't have to say it.
Okay. Well, I was trying to theme the show here.
All right.
That is all. We'll see y'all next time.
Bye.
Bye.